Hello, class. In our presentation, Chase, Michael, and I will be covering topic 3 and discussing the representation of chronic traumatic encephalopathy in football. Often regarded as America's favorite sport, football evolved from rugby and soccer. Football is considered to be the most popular sport in the U.S. Ready, Set, Hike is as familiar to Americans as the national anthem. The sport contributes greatly to U.S. culture, and its precedence is apparent professionally, collegiately, in high schools, and in youth forums such as Little League. The sport's popularity doesn't relish on its contact, we hope, but the strategy of deploying 11 men and choosing an allegiance to the team of your choice. The strategy of teams and the diversity and talent among players keeps fans loyal to the sport. The sport has shown intensity and consequences short and long term. Football is a contact sport, seen in the photo to the top right, meaning physical contact between players is acceptable in play. The goal is to advance the ball, but injury is a common byproduct and collision is to be anticipated in every play. Far from a broken arm or leg, the sport has advanced to show grim neurological consequences in a disease called chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, in men investing their careers in the sport. The governing body of professional football in the U.S. is the NFL, the National Football League. Its championship game, the Super Bowl, pictured to the bottom right, is often considered an unofficial U.S. holiday and ranks amongst the most watched sporting events in the world. Football loyalists also indulge in participating in fantasy football. Aside its wealth and popularity, the league's annual revenue is approximately 10 million US dollars. But why is this important? The NFL is a private organization, and we could suggest its wealth endows a lot of politics in its influence and relations with the sport, including the representation of CTE in players. Research concerning CTE conveys real concern in degenerative brain damage of football players retired and those active in the league. In its beginnings, the NFL underrepresented the disease, in due to the disease being a new area of research and the threat CTE holds on the NFL. This underrepresentation can be related to the misconduct of the doctor in our reading of Williams's The Use of Force, as in both cases there is common misconduct of those with influence, authority, and responsibility to their respective communities. The doctor knew early on that perhaps visiting the sick girl at a later time may diffuse the situation. However, he misused his trust and influence to proceed in a situation that could have been avoided. Here, the wrongdoing in the NFL is the lack of initial force. An organization with such influence and responsibility to the football community confronted CTE politically, hiding behind emerging research with players and fans trusting their judgment. We can suggest the smokescreen concerning CTE in the NFL may be due not only to the league being cautious, but also in due to anticipating unfavorable feedback of players and fans and preserving the league's prosperity. Chase and Michael will further discuss the NFL's evolving representation, the tangibility of the disease in football athletes, and the growing awareness of this neurological disorder later in the presentation. CTE is a progressive degenerative disease. The disease is common in football athletes with a history of repetitive brain trauma and due to the rough nature of the sport. The brain trauma triggers progressive degeneration of brain tissue, including the buildup of an abnormal protein, tau. Observing tau and diagnosing CTE occur in neurological analyses post-mortem. Degenerative changes in the brain can begin months, years, or even decades after the last brain trauma or end of active athletic involvement. At this time, brain imaging methods cannot diagnose CTE, and there is no clinical treatment or known cure. This conveys another avenue of underrepresentation of the disease, as it cannot be diagnosed until death. This picture to the right is from the BU Center of CTE Research. The group immunostained brain tissue for the abnormal tau protein. Persons 2 and 3 both suffer from CTE, indicated by the dense brown deposits. As we learned in our discussion of Brody's stories of sickness, there is storytelling in medicine and storytelling as medicine. Here, the results of the immunostained brain tissue not only indicate CTE, but tell a story in medicine of the disease. The abundance and density of the abnormal tau protein deposits allow researchers not only the ability to diagnose CTE, but tell its severity. This allows researchers to understand the person's deteriorating health. Dr. Omalu, a forensic pathologist, is credited with discovering CTE in the autopsy of Mike Webster, a former Pittsburgh Steeler. The file and television reports presented to the doctor describe the football player's long, steep fall into bizarre behavior. Thus, Dr. Omalu hypothesized Webster suffered from some sort of brain disorder. He ruled out dementia pugilistica, schizophrenia, and Alzheimer's off a basis of analyzing Webster's career, previous pre-mortem clinical workups, and age. The doctor suspected to find residual damage in Webster's brain from the football player's history of recurrent contusions, but was shocked to find no visible tissue damage. He proceeded to run tests on the brain, including immunohistochemical stains, an example of which we saw from BU on the previous slide, and found distinctive patterns of accumulation of abnormal tau and amyloid protein. He acquired the opinion of his mentor in neurodegenerative disease, whom also confirmed that Dr. Omalu's findings were distinct. Dr. Omalu was convinced and recorded his findings in the Neurosurgery Journal, and with careful selection, Dr. Omalu named the disease on a format that its representation would convey its meaning and evoke intellectual sophistication. Dr. Omalu intended for the disease's acronym, CTE, to be easy to remember and grasp. His methodology for the disease's acronym is similar to Sontag's use of acronyms in the House of God, such as the LOL in NAD, the little old lady in No Apparent Distress, which engages readers and connects readers to the message delivered with the acronym in the plot. Dr. Omalu's publishing paved the way for more cases, as he believes that a great majority, if not all, football players suffer from CTE. His work has gained the general acceptance of CTE as a disease and principle in medical literature. Knowledge of the disease has spread, and further research is now represented in not only football, but all levels of society.
89 out of 91 former NFL players have tested positive for brain disease. The study that was conducted by Boston University focused on traumatic head injuries. In the study, 96% of the NFL players were examined and found that 76% of them showed signs of CTE. Boston University also found that offensive and defensive linemen had a higher chance of getting CTE. Lab results. The lab has found CTE in brain tissues of 131 out of 161 individuals before their deaths. Individuals that their brain tissue had CTE had either played football professionally, semi-professionally, college, or high school. Brain degeneration is associated with memory loss, confusion, impaired judgment, impulse control problems, aggression, depression, and eventually progressive dementia. In 1994, NTBI committee was created. NFL made a statement saying that drugs, alcohol, and steroids were a greater problem than concussions. NFL also made a statement saying that concussions were part of the game and that it was an occupational risk. Merrill Hodge announces his retirement after getting a concussion. Later that year also, Commissioner Paul Tagliabue dismisses concussion problems, saying that concussions were a patch of journalism problems. In 1995, Leigh Steinberg sounds an alarm. In 1997, new return to play guidelines were made. The guidelines from American Academy of Neurology says that repetitive concussions can cause brain damage and suggests that players be removed from the game if they lose concussions or exhibit any concussion symptoms 15 minutes post-injury. Repeat concussions cause cumulative brain injury over months or years. In 1999, after years of struggling from cognitive problems, Mike Webster files disability application with the NFL Retirement Board saying that his career in NFL caused him to get dementia. Later that year, NTBI makes a statement saying that serious brain injuries are a rarity in the NFL. 2000s and present, Dallas Cowboys owner tells Aikman that he should ignore concussion concerns. Troy Aikman retires later that year due to concussions and back problems. NTBI chair sends knocked out player back into the game. MTBI releases a statement saying that most concussed players recover quickly. NFL has made attempts to help on-field hard hits, but still no help for players after they're done with the game. Opportunities to fund research. NFLPA funds research and negotiates retirement compensations with NFL.
While the NFL has tried to prevent the awareness of CTE in order to conserve its popularity, there have been many attempts by other people and organizations, the most recent being Dr. Amalus. He, along with Peter Landsman and many producers, produced the movie Concussion in order to raise more awareness of CTE and bring to light the actions of the NFL. The movie was released Christmas Day in 2015 and has been able to inform moviegoers who may not watch the NFL about the effects of CTE. Family members of former NFL players have done their part to raise awareness through charitable organizations and speeches, one being Junior Seau's daughter, Sydney Seau. Junior was a surefire All-Pro first ballot Hall of Famer and asked his daughter to speak on his behalf if he was ever inducted into the Hall of Fame before taking his life in 2012. His autopsy was one of many other deceased NFL players to show signs of CTE. In 2015, when Seau was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Sydney saw an opportunity to speak about CTE and her father's experiences in dealing with the disorder, but was censored by the NFL. Instead of allowing her to speak on her father's behalf, the NFL made her speak offstage in front of an NFL reporter, words that she did not write. This picture is shown to the right. After the speech, Sydney has done many interviews regarding her father and has helped spread awareness. In regards to trying to find out more about CTE, many universities and organizations have begun doing research. Colleges like Boston University and the University of Notre Dame. In partnership with these organizations, the National Football Players Association has aided in funding for research, and have even vowed to donate their brains to research after they have passed away. Awareness has risen, not only at the professional level, but also at the youth level. Many organizations like the Pratik Risha CTE Awareness Foundation have informed children and parents of the effects of football and CTE by passing out flyers shown in the picture to the right at youth football leagues. As anything that affects the lives of many involved, CTE and other head trauma has contributed to changes. In fear of endangering their children, many parents have decided not to place their children in youth football until they have decided they want to play at the high school level. While this change may not directly impact the sport and the NFL, it may have long-term effects. As stated before, the NFL has done some things to prevent head trauma and diagnose concussions early. Recently, they have required an independent neurologist to be on the sideline of any NFL game. These neurologists have the power to stop play and pull players from the game if they feel they have suffered any sort of trauma to the head area. They have also begun protecting offensive players from unnecessary hits on the playing field by issuing fines and suspensions. The NFL has also begun developing safer head protection, shown to the right. The first helmets were made of complete leather and only protected the ears while covering the top and side part of the player's head. As displayed, helmets have evolved into full coverage with the face mask to allow players' faces to also be protected. Perhaps the most innovative addition is a gel casing inside the helmet to act as a small shock absorber for the head. But this is not enough. Many players have left or retired from the game early, the most famous being Chris Borland, who at the young age of 24 decided to step away from the game in fear of long-term effects of playing the sport may have. Another story is Jack Miller, who decided to forego his senior season and quit the sport after suffering several concussions. In an interview with ESPN, Miller stated, "It's nice walking away before things could have gotten worse, and multiple schools have reached out, but my health and happiness is more important than a game."
In our conclusion, you'll find our works cited page here. This ends our discussion on our project about CTE and evolving representation in the NFL. Thank you for watching our presentation, and I hope you enjoy it.